Well, welcome to the Unstoppable Freedom Podcast. I'm Jimmy Page. The Unstoppable Freedom Alliance is part of a growing movement across America that's fighting for freedom and the values and ideals that this country was founded on. Today we have an absolutely incredible guest by the name of Eli Crane, and you are going to be inspired by him. Eli is a man of faith, a husband, a father, a veteran, and an entrepreneur. He joined the Navy SEALs the week after 9/11 and spent 8 years as a Navy SEAL. After 5 deployments in the Navy, 3 to Iraq, he decided to turn the page. You might have seen Eli and his wife Jen on ABC's hit show Shark Tank, where they successfully landed a deal with Mark Cuban and Kevin O'Leary. He's also a brand ambassador for Sig Sauer firearms. He loves raising awareness about veterans' issues and regularly engages in conservative thought leadership through social media. He and his wife of 15 years and their 2 daughters reside in Tucson, Arizona, where together they run their company Bottle Breacher and raise their family. Most recently, Eli has decided to run for U.S. Congress in his home state, Arizona District Number 2. And he is an American First candidate, has the courage and leadership skills necessary to keep America free and prosperous. Eli, lot there, buddy. You've had quite a run. Welcome to Unstoppable Freedom.
Thanks for having me, Jimmy.
You bet. Okay, so I got to tell you right off the bat, I need you to know that I remember seeing you and Jen on Shark Tank pitching the Bottle Breacher, and we were all rooting for you guys to get a deal. You know, we're fans of the veterans, but we're sitting there, and I used Shark Tank as a way to teach my kids about how to value a business. You know, how do you decide and determine what value a business has? But we were rooting for you for big time.
No, I appreciate it, man. That was a great opportunity for sure.
We have I actually have 2 Bottle Breachers, and we've used them through leadership training. I've worked with a bunch of your buddies with the Navy SEALs. We've done a lot of leadership training for our leadership teams, and we've always given out those as gifts because they're so well received. And so I've got a couple here in the office, got a couple at home, giving them out to a ton of people. I actually went to the website after Shark Tank and ordered some right away. So we were some of your first customers following Shark Tank.
I appreciate it. I'm hoping you weren't some of my first frustrated customers, because there were a lot of frustrated customers after Shark Tank. You know, that's one of the dichotomies of when you're watching Shark Tank, you're rooting for this garage-born, kitchen-born company, whatever it is, this small mom and pop, and who makes maybe 50, 60, 100 units of whatever they're making on a good day. And then after Shark Tank, in our case, we woke up the next day and we had to make 60,000 units. And for most of us that don't, for those of us that manufacture our own products, especially here in the USA, it's not like you pick up the phone and you call China and say, hey, we need you to send us 60,000 units because we just went on national television. We had to figure out how to make all of that stuff, and it was a good entrepreneurial challenge and a good production challenge, but it was definitely stressful, and we tried to make our customers as happy as we could and get the stuff out the door as quickly as we could. But thank you for supporting us, Jimmy.
Yeah, you bet. So is this one of those, we started this business in our garage story? I mean, it's like an Apple story?
That's exactly where this business started. It started in my garage on my workbench, and I would just take spent 50 cal casings and I would cut into them with my Dremel tool and try and figure out how to make the cut. Now, an important part of the story for those that didn't see the Shark Tank episode, I didn't create the 50 cal bottle opener. I just kind of made it better and mainstreamed it and marketed the hell out of it. And my first one came from the Philippines. My little brother went over there on a deployment and brought it back to me. So, when all my buddies started asking, where can I get one of these cool bottle openers, it kind of made me think, I wonder if I can make those, because it seems pretty simple. And so I started working on it with a Dremel tool at my workbench, and before long, we were in production.
It's amazing. I'm for those who are watching the video, you'll see this, and for those who are listening, you won't see it. But I've got a couple of them right in front of me, and you'll see even I customized. The cool thing about these bottle breachers are, and what they are, is just crazy fancy old rounds of what these are 50 caliber.
Yes, sir.
50 caliber rounds that function as a bottle opener, and not only do you have these, but I customized them for my family. I gave them out to all my kids, my family, my brothers and sisters. They all have them, and then we gave them out as awards. But it was what's cool about these things is it's a veteran-owned company. You've perfected it for sure, and now I actually have a grenade. I have a grenade bottle opener. Is that the latest product?
Well, we call that the Freedom Frag. So it's a dummy grenade. All the stuff that we make is inert, so it's not a weapon, and it's kind of recycling and repurposing, military grade or ammunition. Or in the case of the grenade, it was never a grenade. It's just made to be a replica, right?
Yeah.
But it's a grenade that opens your beer. It looks kind of like a grenade, except it's got a huge hole in the bottom of it, and you can personalize it. You can put somebody's name or company logo on it. We include some marketing, or some warning material in it. Do not take this into the airport. Do not take it into the courthouse, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's funny.
Yes.
Bottle Breacher makes the TSA top 10 dumbest products or most ridiculous products taken through airport security every year. So
it's so great.
It is. They're cool gifts, and we enjoy making them because that's one thing that I tell people all the time. Men, we never really grow up. We just get cooler toys, and that's one of the reasons that this has become such a big deal. Is that most guys, when we started this, had never held a 50 cal round in their hand, let alone one that could open their beer and had their name or their company or their team on the back of it. And so, that's kind of the magic behind it.
It really is cool, and I have experienced the dilemma of not being able to bring it to the airport. So we were all scrambling because we gave them out for our leadership team. We give out all these gifts, and we're like, oh my gosh, wait a minute, you guys can't fly back with this. And so we had to scramble to figure out how to make that happen, but we were able to do it. So just tremendous product, works flawlessly, a lot of fun, connects us to the military. Super grateful for what you're doing. It is so. We're going to talk a lot about your career, and I'm going to come back to this. I want to come back to this entrepreneurial spirit that you have, right? But I want to back up a little bit for our audience. I want to tell them a little bit more about your history. I think what makes your story incredibly interesting, especially from an American freedom perspective, very unique, is because of the variety of experiences that you've had, right? Number one, you experienced the 9/11 terrorist attacks, right? How old were you when those attacks happened?
I'm 21 years old.
21. And you entered the Navy right after that event, right?
Yeah, the week after I started dropping out of all of my classes at the University of Arizona, and then I think within close to 10 days I was on a plane flying from Phoenix to Chicago for Navy boot camp.
Oh my gosh, amazing, right? So you have that moment, and we'll dig into that in a minute. And the second thing, you served in the most elite special forces team in the world. So not only did you enlist into the military, but you went into the hardest pathway you could possibly take. And then after that serving, and by the way, thank you for serving. Super grateful for you and all the other veterans that do that. Number 3, you became a very successful entrepreneur, and now you've decided to run for office. So we're going to kind of go through that progression a little bit. But before we dive into that, I have a question I want to open up with, and I ask all our guests this: why do you love America? What are the fundamental things you love most about America?
Well, I think obviously it's cliche, but freedom, right? When you look at how our founders created this country, they could have done like every other, world leader, dictator, or tyrant before them and said, hey, look, I have the power. I can write this and make this any way I want. Why not keep it to myself? They did the exact opposite. They created a government and a country that was of, by, and for the people, right? And that's the reason I love it, because we still, and I hope this never changes, but we still have the ability to hire and fire our leaders if they're not representing us the way that we want to. And so that's why I love this country, because we not only can we shape in a sense our culture and our government and our way of life by electing representatives that share our values, but we can also say what we want to say. And not most places in the world aren't like that. Like I can, regardless of what you think of the current commander in chief, or regardless of what you thought of the last commander in chief, if you want to go on social media right now and say, I hate this guy, I think he's a complete buffoon, you can do that. Should you do that? That's another debate. But the fact that you can actually do that, you can't do that in Iran. You can't do that in China. You can't do that in a lot of places around the world. And we are so blessed to have freedom of speech here, and the freedoms that so many people have sacrificed so much for. And it didn't just happen. The people that met, our founding fathers that met, when they started drafting the Constitution and looking at the formation of this country, they were guilty of treason the moment they met, and they could have been hung in the town square. And to me, that's, Ronald Reagan said a long time ago, he said, freedom is always one generation away from extinction. And we've grown up with so much freedom and opportunity and prosperity that we take it for granted. We just think, oh, this is the way it's always going to be. And there's a reason you hear people call America a great experiment, because it's very unique, and it was an experiment, and it changed a lot of the world, and I think for the better in many ways. And that doesn't mean that we're perfect by any stretch of the imagination, and anybody that, in my opinion, you hear compare America to some utopia isn't being realistic at all. What you have to do is you have to compare it to other real countries, other civilizations, other cultures.
Yeah.
And that's why I love America. It's imperfect, but it's amazing. And anybody that grows up here, anybody who lives here now, is blessed. And that's my story, and it always will be.
I love it. I was thinking, you said something very interesting that no guest has said before, that our founding fathers actually had the power to create a government where they were truly in power, right? I mean, I never thought of it that way. These were the leaders at the time. They could have written and designed something very similar to what was happening all around the rest of the world. The tyrannical dictators, the kings, the people, creating a class system. But instead, they created a we the people. And you said it best, of, by, and for. And that it's a beautiful thing. We will touch on free speech a little later, because I think it's under incredible assault. But let's start with your military service. So you touched on it a little bit, that 9/11 happened. Did you grow up in a military family? Did you grow up in a patriotic family? What was the moment, that defining moment of 9/11, that made you decide to leave the University of Arizona, I think you said, to leave the university and to go into the Navy?
Well, first off, I did not grow up in a military family per se. I did have, a grandfather that served during World War II, but my parents, neither of them served in the military. But I will say that my parents were very patriotic, and they raised me and my brothers to understand that freedom isn't free. And they raised us to respect, men and women that put a uniform on every day and have a job that's so much bigger than themselves, or just healthcare or a paycheck. And so that's one of the reasons I'm so grateful for, men and women, that are first responders and, military individuals, because they do, when you go down a career path like that, it is so much bigger than your paycheck or your 401k or insurance, or what a lot of people strive to do. And, that's something that will always be important to me. And does that mean that there's not bad people in the military? Of course not. Does that mean that there's not bad police officers? Of course not. I think it's even ridiculous that we have to say these things, but, these institutions get held to a much different standard than any other institutions out there, to the
Yes.
point where now you're hearing conversations of, hey, we should defund the police. And it's just
Yeah.
completely asinine and
Yeah.
stupid.
It is.
And I apologize, Jimmy, I'm going off on a little tangent there, but,
No, no, we'll go there.
because my parents raised me to respect men and women that try and keep, our society and our culture on a certain course, and try and,
Yeah.
fight for, freedoms and the safety of other people. And then
Yeah.
after witnessing 9/11,
Yes.
like the rest of Americans, I was shocked. I was angry.
Mhm.
I was upset, and I wanted justice. And so I said to myself, you can either talk about it or you can do something about it. And so I was like, hey,
Mm.
look, I can always come back to school. I can always get a degree.
Mm.
I don't know that there will ever be a time like this in my country's history where they need the next generation to step up and go serve. And so that's what I
Yes.
wanted to do.
It's amazing. And a lot of young men in particular and young women were motivated by the 9/11 attacks. I'm imagining that you remember where you were when that happened.
100%. Yeah, I was down at the University of Arizona. I was enrolled in a class that was called the Ranger Challenge program. We didn't
Ah,
have a
come on.
SEAL Challenge program, at U of A, and so it was the closest thing I could get to preparing myself for the program that I wanted to go into when I graduated.
Mm.
We had just done an early morning evolution. I'd gotten in my car, some training evolution. I'd gotten in my car. I was, going to drive back to the fraternity house that I lived in and that I was a member
Mm.
of. It was called Alpha Gamma Rho. It was a bunch of farm boys, and ranchers, and just really good dudes. And
Mm.
as soon as I turned on the radio in my car, I always had it on talk radio, and I could hear what was going on. That the towers were under attack. And I drove back home. I woke up all the guys that lived in that house, and I was like, "Hey guys, you guys got to wake up. We got to watch this." And so we all sat around that day, just like everybody else, glued to the television, trying to
Mm.
figure out, what was going on, and just dumbfounded and in shock that somebody
Yeah.
would do that here in this country.
And, as I remember it, it was the clear, I don't know if it was in Arizona. I was on the East Coast at the time. It was the clearest day, sunny, bright, sunshiny day, crisp air. I'll never forget the way it felt. I was out at a golf event for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and when the first plane hit, when the report came in, there was a question mark in your mind, like, well, gosh, was that just a horrible accident? And then when you got word that the second plane hit, then you knew we were under attack right away. Is that how you felt? Like, it was, as it evolved, it became much more serious, didn't it?
Absolutely. It absolutely did. And I think that, a lot of people had a bunch of different emotions on that day. And I think it started with maybe shock. And then as things progressed and the picture started to become more clear, I think for a lot of us, it turned into maybe some anger, for sure.
Yeah.
And then, for a lot of us, I think it turned into, okay, so what do we do about it? And
Yes.
that's what led me down to the recruiting office here in Tucson, and that's what later put me on a plane to Great Lakes.
It's amazing. I'll never forget the days following 9/11 when the group that was responsible for, or groups that were responsible, came to light, and then the absolute unity in American culture, in our communities. I've never seen more American flags raised. We have a flag up all year round, as do many people in America, because we love America. We love the opportunities that America has with all of its flaws. But I'll never forget just this absolute unity around defending America. That we were attacked, we all came together regardless of political party, gender, race, community, state. None of it mattered, because we were one. And I think that's the beauty of e pluribus unum, out of many one, is that we do stand for certain inalienable rights. We do stand for certain principles that we unite around. And when you come under attack, it's like somebody attacking your family. You're going to come together real fast. Is that what you felt? Did you got a sense of that because you went right down and enlisted, and you saw this groundswell of American support to defend ourselves, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely saw that and I felt it. And that's why, I agree when I hear people say that they'd love to have another 9/12 where they just saw Americans, a unity that they'd never saw or felt before. And, it's so sad to me that it takes something like
Oh,
9/11, just a complete tragedy like
yeah.
that to wake people up to what we have here and how it is under attack, and people around the world hate what we have here. They hate what it represents, and how lucky and fortunate we are to have it, and how precious life is, because it can be gone in
Yes.
an instant. And this is one of the reasons I'm doing what I'm doing now, and one of the
Mm.
reasons I did what I did back then is because I realized that we live in a broken, fallen world, and evil never sleeps.
Yes.
um, and it's like we do have an enemy who comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And
Yes.
it just breaks my heart. um, I wish that unity was something that was an everyday thing, and I wish that we didn't take it for granted as much as we do.
Yeah, I agree. You mentioned a scripture verse, that talks about the enemy, that we do have a common enemy. In fact, I remember when we were attacked from the outside, we had a common enemy outside, and we could rally around that. I think what we're seeing now is the enemy is within, right? We're being divided. So whether it's through politicians or leaders or, insert the group that's dividing us, trying to divide us and separate us into all these little groups so that they can divide and conquer.
Yeah.
And they're introducing an anti-faith, anti-freedom, anti-family, anti-American ideology that is tearing apart what used to unite us. This common value system of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, creating that positive vision for America, what we can be. We've never lived up to the promise yet, but we will. I believe we will. And at the very least, we will be in pursuit of it. It's very difficult to withstand the enemy within, right? A house divided. Do you see that today?
100%. 100%. And it's one of the reasons I'm doing what I'm doing in running, for political office, something that I never wanted to do. And, I do believe that everything that you see going on, and I know not everybody agrees with me on this, and that's okay. But I do believe everything you're seeing going on does have spiritual undertones to it.
Yeah.
Um, and it makes me, as I watch my country being destroyed from within. You mentioned division. A lot of that division, unfortunately, is very intentional. It is very intentional. And you put it, in my opinion, right on. Divide and conquer. It's one of the oldest. It's one of the oldest military, tactics in the book, and that's why you
Mm.
see cultural Marxism in so many of our institutions. If you look at cultural Marxism, if you study it, and intersectionality, the
Yes.
whole point of it is to divide us up into small little groups, victimhood groups, and then assign points based on how far away from the cultural hegemony or how far away from the top you are. And it just creates resentment. It creates division, animosity. And I like to go back to, I think it's in Galatians. It says, "Now for we are neither uh, Greek nor Jew, free nor slave, male nor female. We are all one in Christ." And
Yes.
I realize that not everybody's on the same page. With me and where I come from and my perspective. I am a Christian. I don't run from it. I'm proud to be a Christian, and I'm proud, of what that means and what it stands for. But it does break my heart to see all this division. And I would love to get back to a place in this country where we could say, we could look at one another and be like, okay, you're not a Christian, you're a Mormon, or you're a Catholic, or you're a Muslim, or whatever you are, and we can agree to disagree on certain aspects of religion and what we think about politics, but isn't it great that we live in a place that we can agree to disagree? Not, hey,
Yes.
I want you canceled because you're this or you're that, or
Yes.
you're deplorable, or you know to me that completely undermines what America is supposed to be about anyway. It's supposed to be about the having the freedom to have diversity of thought and opinion and idea, and being able to you know speak that without the fear of repercussion or canceling. And it's one of
Yes.
the again it's one of the reasons I look around and I'm like, I have two kids, I have two daughters, and like I'm scared to death with what I see, what the future that I see, the trajectory this country's on. I'm scared to death with what they're going to be left with. And that, to me, it's unsat. And it's like, okay, Eli, Jimmy, I thought when I left the military in 2014, man, I thought I was done fighting. And I was
Mm.
looking forward to living the American dream and just, taking a wrap off, as we used to say in the military all the time.
Mm.
And as I've watched this country, spiral out of control, I've said to myself, Eli, you can't get out of the fight. You have to keep fighting, because your
Yes.
kids and their kids and the next generations, you owe it to them. You got to
Yes.
grow up with freedom and opportunity and prosperity and the ability to agree to disagree, because you still lived, because men and women before you fought for that. And if you don't do
Yes.
it, if you don't keep fighting, that's on you, brother. And that's unacceptable. So, it's like, I think I think the perception of a lot of people that run for offices is, oh, these individuals, they all just want power. And I understand why. I've been in that camp myself, but for me, I don't like this stuff. But
Mm.
I do it. I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to say, hey, I'll go. I'll go, not because I like the self promotion of telling people why they should vote for me, but because I see it as service, just like when I rogered up after 9/11, saying, "Hey, I'll
Yeah.
go. Send me into the
Yeah.
thick of it." And I might make it, I might not make it, but
Mm.
um, I'm not going to sit around and watch it burn.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting the correlation between your entry into the military. There was an event, a tragic event that created an opportunity for you to say, "I'm going in. I'm angry about this. We're going to defend America. We're going to defend American values. We're going to defend our people. I'm seeking justice." And you got into the fight because you knew we were under attack. And it's interesting the parallel of your, seeking to serve in Congress now in Arizona is that you see a different kind of war going on, a different kind of assault on America, and you said, I'm not going to stand by and not do anything. And I think that's the key. One of the key messages we're trying to get out to everyone, all of our listeners and every American, is that freedom, defending it, protecting it, is all of our responsibility. No one can sit on the sideline and watch things degrade, watch things divide, watch our basic values and ideals get crushed and trampled. We all have to step into the fight. You happen to be doing it by running for Congress. And by the way, I'm an East Coaster. Originally, I grew up in upstate New York, went to school in Virginia, spent some time in the Virginia, Maryland area, love the East Coast. But I can tell you, no one likes inside the Beltway, D.C. Like that. Nobody likes that. Everybody knows what it is. Everybody, it's the power center, right? The power and
Yeah,
control.
right.
So for you as a veteran, from Arizona, desiring to represent your state and enter the fray and get into that fight is pretty remarkable, because politics was probably the furthest thing from your mind, wasn't it?
Yeah, there are a lot of correlations between what I did in the military and when I joined it, and what I'm doing now. And I got to be honest, even though I think there's a much better chance of, me not coming home and ultimately death. Um, there's a part of me that would take that any day, because it meant that, the sacrifice would be in somebody else's backyard. And
Yeah.
I saw my family not having, obviously they would have to deal with the fallout of that, but at least I felt like they'd be safe. This is in
Yes.
many ways more scary to me because it's right here at home. It's right here
Yeah.
within, and my kids are 100%. They're already dealing with it. My wife is already dealing with it. My friends
Yeah.
and my family, my community, they're already dealing with this war to destroy America from within.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people hear that and they think, oh, Eli, you're being, hyperbolic, or
Yeah.
you're overstating. And if you haven't figured it out yet, and I don't mean that, I
Yeah.
don't mean to be disrespectful, but there is a war on American
Yes.
culture. There are plenty of people embedded within the highest positions in every institution that we have that don't like what America stands for, what it
Yes.
represents. They don't like
Mm.
the fact that we, the people, have the power here. They want the
Yes.
power. They want control, and unfortunately, they'll do anything, just like humanity has for the entire time of its existence, to get that
Yeah.
power. And so
Yeah.
it is a fight. And this isn't how I wish I was spending my time, Jimmy. Honestly, man. I you know I I got home at 1 in the morning, drove up to Prescott last night for an event.
Nice.
Myself and my team came back, got home at 1. I'll be headed right back up north early tomorrow morning to do another event, and it's like, um, sacrificing a lot of time away from my family. But again,
Yeah.
it's service, and it's like, if
Yeah.
that same thing, if I don't go, who's going to do it?
Yes. Yeah. And it's funny you say that because I had a similar moment about 8 months ago. My dad did some research back in the day to discover that we are actually descendants from someone that fought in the American Revolutionary War, which was pretty cool. And I remember when my dad first told us that we were sons of the American Revolution, we thought that was pretty neat. But at the time, I don't think I took it as seriously as I should have. And I really admire my dad for going through that process. But just the idea that, to be a descendant from those that fought, only 3% of the colonists fought in the Revolutionary War. Only 3%. 15% of those back then either financed the war, housed soldiers along the way, benefited them, assisted. So we know that there's this small remnant. There's this remnant of people that God is rising up to defend freedom. You said this, and by the way, I woke up one morning and had, how God speaks to you in the quietness of your spirit, and He said, I have a new assignment for you. I had been doing ministry with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes for many, many years. Loved that.
Right.
It's bringing the good news to coaches and athletes, and I know you were a former athlete. We'll say you're still an athlete. It's all right. And I woke up and God said, hey, I have a new assignment for you, and you're going to enter this fight for freedom. And He's slowly laid out each of those steps along the way to amplify the voice of freedom fighters and to organize a grassroots movement for people to engage in their local communities, to reignite a passion for freedom, and to really revitalize the culture, right? You talked about we are at war right now. We do have an internal war. The war that we have today is ideological.
Yeah.
And you said it best. There are people in the highest places in American culture, whether that's government, whether that's corporations, big corporations, whether that's our school system. Every major system in America has people in key leadership positions that do not like what America is or stands for. And consequently, you can see this ideological war happening everywhere. I'm going to tee this up on the free speech and cancel culture because obviously when you decided to run for office, you have become a target of sorts because your values and ideology is not consistent with the prevailing controlled narrative. Have you encountered people that want to cancel you, that want to silence your voice in this process?
I encountered it long before. Um, you know, I've been outspoken for many years, about, and you read it in my bio. I've been engaging in conservative thought leadership for many years.
Mm.
I used to take every opportunity I could get over the last several years to make videos for Dan Bongino or Dinesh D'Souza or Sean Hannity or whoever it was. If there was a topic that I felt, you know, was was pressing in our culture and important in our culture, because it is a lot of the war that you see going on is a war of ideas. But you know, so you know, my company, Bottle Breacher, we were canceled off Twitter.
Mm.
I think a year and a half before Donald Trump was, you know, Twitter threw Donald Trump off, and it's just, it is what it is. We couldn't get any response from them, you know, and that, you know, that's the type of thing that, you know, bothers me so much, is that it is partisan. It's not a fairly balanced system. There's a certain narrative and a certain side that kind of you know, gets the ability to do and say what they want, and then there's a side that's not acceptable, canceled, deplorable, etc.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that is something I've been dealing with for a long time. But it just goes back to, okay, this is just part of the game, and this is part of this new fight. And it, you just, like we used to do in warfare. If the enemy's outflanking us or defeating us over here, we got to find a new way around. We got to find a new
Yeah.
way to attack them, and we got to find. And when I say attack them, I'm really meaning we got to find a way to continue to preserve and conserve American culture, our way of life, and freedom of speech, and all these things that we, you know, real Americans hold so dear.
Yeah. It's funny. So you were canceled before cancel culture became a thing.
No,
I mean, really?
I think it was a thing. It was just, you know, I've been dealing with it before I even ran for office. We
It's
came out
amazing.
publicly. We were one of the few companies, I think, you know, and I think a lot of veteran companies, veteran entrepreneurs, you know, did this just because we, I think we're a little bit more patriotic than your average, you know, your average group.
Yeah.
But we came out with, you know, very conservative leanings very early on, and that's something that, you know, you're taught in business 101 you don't do, because you'll
Yeah.
alienate a demographic. But I saw the writing on the wall a long time ago that this was going to be a cultural war.
Mm.
And I also watched a lot of, you know, good men and women, you know, completely sit it out and would not participate in it. And I still see them every single day, and I'm like, hey, there's a war
Yeah.
going on, whether you like it or not. And if you don't jump in and help us out, we're going to lose it. And then it's going to be a lot worse. Your situation is going to be a lot worse than it is now. So you better pick a side, and you better jump into this fight, or don't
Yes.
complain. Don't complain when you no longer have the freedoms that you had yesterday. And, you
Yeah.
know, it's not even something, you know, it's not even something that I like to think or say to people, because I don't want people to have to fight. I want
Yeah.
people to be able to live their lives and be free, and, you know, watch their Netflix show and just, you know,
Yes.
do whatever the hell they want to do. But that's not the
Yeah.
reality anymore. There is a
Yeah.
war going on for this country, and you pick a side, and or you sit out, you continue to be complacent, act like it's not happening, and then you will deal with the fallout of it. You will,
Yeah.
and you'll have nobody to blame but yourself.
That's right.
And that's the reality of the situation.
It is. And that's a perfect segue because it is coming to your neighborhood, right? This is not an out there thing, an out there war. Oh, the politicians are battling it out. You know, elections come and go. This is no. This affects my local community. This affects my local business. This affects my schools and medical decisions that are made. Okay, let's talk about this. Medical freedom. It's one of our, you know, obviously COVID just ended, I guess. I got word. I guess the media has decided, somebody decided that COVID is over.
Oh, imagine
And
that.
now,
Imagine that, Jimmy.
I
Wow.
mean,
I
wow.
mean, midterms right around the corner. It's amazing. Hey, but they're following the science, Jimmy. They're
Oh,
following the
yeah,
science, bro.
exactly. I keep saying, is this the political science or is this actual
Yeah,
science? And,
you know
you
exactly
know,
what kind of science it is,
we
Jimmy.
know exactly what this is. It's very disturbing as anyone with an intellectual look at any of this sees this for what it is, right? But the narrative has changed. But you know, for the last 2 years, there has been a brawl between government control and individual freedoms, especially around the medical piece. And the government control is this is the narrative. These are the mitigation strategies that we're going to require. We're going to mandate everything. We're not going to give you information so that you can make an informed decision about any of this. I'm gonna get in trouble for saying what I'm saying, actually, but the medical narrative has been consistent, right? Government's in control. That's why they have this emergency powers. So let's enact our emergency public health powers so that we can suspend, in essence, suspend the Constitution, suspend the Bill of Rights, silence anyone with a separate narrative. In fact, we've seen literally thousands, not 20, thousands of physicians who have been silenced, who have received letters. We know of physicians who have received letters from the medical board threatening their licenses if they try anything different than the official narrative. The medical freedom issue is massive. This is going to come back, right? This is not a one and done. Let's experiment. This is coming back. The thing that has bothered me most is the purge, the economic purge. We are saying this vaccine is mandated. If you don't get it, you will lose your job. That's happening with police officers, first responders, teachers, all medical professionals, nurses, doctors, etc., the military, and on it goes. Sports teams. And what concerns me about this, sorry for my rant, what concerns me about this is I have kids that are coming through college that are getting degrees that we've paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for,
Right.
who have made the personal medical decision not to be vaccinated based upon the information, it benefits, risks, and alternative treatments. And now they can't even enter into their career field because that entire career field has decided that vaccines are mandatory. Help us understand, medical freedom's massive, right? Because if you don't have body autonomy, if you can't have a say in what medical treatments you're going to have, you really can limit your opportunities. Tell me about if this is an issue for you.
100%. It's right in chorus with everything else that's going on, and it goes back to who has the power. And like I tell people all the time, evil, tyranny, totalitarianism, it never sleeps. It never sleeps. That's why Reagan said decades ago, freedom is always one generation away from extinction. And I know it's overused, and we just blow it off. We don't even tune in. But guys, this is how it's gonna be till the end of time, because evil never sleeps.
Yes.
It never will. It never will. It will always want more control. It will always want more power. That's why our founders, they knew that. That's why they wanted. That's why they created a government with checks and balances. They wanted it to be hard for the government to get things done. In essence, and it's just like, and that's why they gave we the people the power, because they knew that, and they knew what would happen. That's another reason they gave us a Second Amendment. And I know a lot of people don't like to talk about it. They don't like to hear it. They don't even like to go down that road in their head. But let me tell you something. Okay, let me tell you something. And this is just a truth and a reality. The biggest reason that you have a Second Amendment, and it's right after the first one, isn't to go out and be able to hunt a deer or a duck. It's because our founders just got done dealing with tyranny. They studied history. They knew about evil, and they knew that it never slept. And they wanted you and I to have the ability to protect ourselves if and when that day came, where it became overreaching. And it became to the point where, our very lives, our freedom, our liberty, whatever it was in so much jeopardy, that we felt we had to defend ourselves. And I know people don't like to go down that road, and I hear you. Like it's not something that I even like to think about, but it's a reality. And it's like evil never sleeps, guys. And this is why, I did an event last night, and I'm probably one of the only candidates on the trail that will tell people that I'm not the answer. I am not the answer. You know what the answer is? The answer is activism. The answer is the opposite of complacency. The answer is for you to get involved. The answer is for you to become a PC committeeman, or you to run for state or local or federal office. And if you won't do it, get behind somebody that will and support them. Because the day and age of us being complacent and just being focused on our Netflix show and our little jobs so that we can, we can go on this vacation and make sure that our kids go to school. Those days are done and over.
Yes.
And it's like you have to get involved, or we're gonna lose it. I'm telling you
Yeah.
that right now. We're gonna lose
Yes.
it.
Yeah. It feels that way. And you mentioned the Bill of Rights. You mentioned the Second Amendment in particular, and how it follows directly after the First Amendment, which is the protection of our speech, our religious freedoms, our ability to assemble, all of which, every single one of those things was absolutely suspended during this crisis, if you will. I don't believe it was a crisis. I think we we made it into a crisis. However, what I love about I
That's
love the
because
Bill of
that's
Rights.
because you're anti-science, Jimmy.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
anti-science, man.
Exactly. I've gotten COVID. So what I love about America is you have the freedom to choose, evaluate the information, and then make the decision for yourself. I respect someone's ability to make the decision to get
I do
vaccinated,
too.
or even to wear a mask.
I
That's
do
the beauty
too.
of it. I mean, you could wear 10 masks. I don't
Yeah.
care.
Knock
But
yourself
I
out.
also, right, yeah, and even if they, regardless of whether we think they work or not, we've got enough science now to know that the vaccines don't do what they were promised to do, which is to prevent infection and spread. They don't do that. We know that. That's actually been admitted by the CDC. That shouldn't
Oh,
be
Jimmy, are
controversial.
you sure? Because I heard an interview with Dr. Fauci just, I think, yesterday, and he said that, he actually made a counter argument to that. So I don't know that Fauci and the CDC are on the same page, but they,
Maybe not.
I don't know.
I heard that you,
Maybe it's more of a confusion campaign. I'm really not sure, but I think a lot
I
of us
think it is.
have been skeptical for a long time. Figured that one out a long
Yeah,
time ago. And again,
exactly. I
guys, if
think
you want to get vaccinated or wear masks, I'm cool with it. But I'm not
yes,
cool with you. I'm
yes,
not cool with you promoting medical tyranny and forcing other people to make
that's right.
choices for their body and put medications in their body that they don't think are necessary, or
Yes.
might not do some harm to them down the road.
That's right. This idea of, I'm all for freedom, not for mandates. We like freedom, not force.
Yep.
I don't believe our government should ever sit in a position of forcing you to make that decision, especially when your current health condition might be contraindicated. If you might be at risk, and only you and your physician know that, and you should have the freedom, and it shouldn't be an exemption. The freedom to decide should be the standard. That should be the foundation. If you want to get a vaccine or or wear a mask, you can. That's the beauty of the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights limits the government's ability to infringe upon your individual freedoms. It really isn't as much about my right to something. It's about the government being restricted from infringing upon my right to do that.
But Jimmy,
And
why
that's
why would
why,
why would
yeah,
why would we even want to do that? I mean, they have our best
right,
interest in mind, right? I mean, you know,
exactly.
no, yeah, I mean,
I know.
I don't really get what all these crazies are so whipped up about. I mean, everybody knows that the government has our best interest in mind at all times. I mean,
I love your sarcasm.
yeah,
Sarcasm is my favorite language, actually. um, well, I will say this. So you're a Sig Sauer brand ambassador. Okay, so I love that because I'm a Sig Sauer fan. That's the brand of choice for me with respect to the firearms that I have. Tell me a little bit about why Sig. Is it the best brand?
I mean, it's not even a question. See, the thing is like I carried a Sig 226 in the SEAL teams, and I was also the ordnance rep at SEAL Team 3. So that, for like 4 years while I was there, and so one of the things it entailed in that job was to, you had to know all the weapons. You had to know a lot about them. You had to
Mm,
fix the ones that were broken. You had to turn the ones in that were broken. We had machine guns, suppressors, lasers,
mm,
all sorts of things, and that was one thing that I didn't have a lot of issue with, was the 6 Hour 226, and so I knew it was a solid brand. And then when I got an opportunity, once I got out to go tour the facility and meet some of the folks there, I was blown away. I didn't know how big
mm.
Sig Sauer was, and I did. The other thing I didn't know was that, at the time, 98% of their manufacturing was in the United States, because Sig Sauer sounds like
Amazing.
it sounds like a foreign brand, and that's where it did start. But now it's all manufactured in the United States of America. And if you
Oh,
go
that's good.
check them out, Jimmy, they have, not only
Yeah.
do they have handguns, but they have carbines, They
Yeah,
have suppressors. They have their own optics. They have their own ammunition.
it's
And
amazing.
now they're starting to get into machine guns as well. So working with the Department of Defense, and so
It's amazing.
it's an amazing company. They have amazing
Mm,
leaders there. They don't play around. It's all about improving the gear of the next generation's warfighter and
mm.
making sure people can defend themselves with quality products. And so,
I
if you're
love
into
that.
that type of thing, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you look a little deeper into. And they just came
Yeah.
out within the last couple of years. They came out with a hunting line as well. And
Is that right?
I was a sniper in the SEAL teams, Jimmy, and I'll tell you, man, their new weapon, their new tactical bolt gun. It's called the Sig Cross. I wish we would have
Uh-huh.
had that in the SEAL teams, man, because it is a phenomenal platform. So
Okay,
go check
so
that out for
you're
all you long distance shooters out there.
yeah, exactly. Well, I'm pretty excited because that's it. It's the brand that I chose for concealed. The P365. I have an XL, but now they have the X, which I like even more. It's even smaller. It's funny. Years and years ago, my wife and I had this conversation about defending the family, in essence, about guns, and I think she had some fears about are guns safe? Can they be handled safely?
Yeah.
And I remember having a conversation with her where I said, where I suggested that it wasn't okay to not have the ability to defend my home and to defend my family in the event that we had a conflict or an intruder. And that was the argument for her that changed the game. She didn't want any guns in the house. And when she thought that through, that, boy, what if we did have, with the increase in crime, what if we did have an incident in the home? How important would it be that I have stopping power, so to speak? And that changed the entire game. And that has led us to, really as a family, really, really, and I've always believed in the Second Amendment, of course, but now to be prepared,
Yeah.
and to the point now where my wife is after me, hey, take me to the range. I need to be prepared. Get me a firearms that I can handle. Where I've taken my daughter, my 19-year-old daughter Grace, to the range, she is prepared. She knows how to handle a firearm, to make that firearm safe, to carry it safely, to use it in the event that she needs to. And what I love about that is I don't think anyone should be a sitting duck for crime.
Right.
Be prepared, and that's why I'm so supportive of those that decide that they do want to have firearms to protect their family or protect their loved ones.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the American way of life. We've been talking about that a lot. That's another thing I love about what our founders recognized. And if you think about it, really what they recognized was unalienable rights, meaning rights from God, not given by government, but rights from God to protect yourself and defend yourself. And when they recognize that these rights are from God, and they took a look at the ability to defend yourself. That's something that I love about the American way of life because it puts
Yes.
individual accountability and responsibility and individual freedoms above the state. And that's what a lot of communist,
Yes.
socialist, Marxist countries do. They put the state above everything. No, they don't care about your individual, needs, wants, responsibilities, ownership, accountability. It's all about the focus is always on the state or the collective,
Yeah.
not on the individual. And the fact that
Yeah.
we have the ability and the freedom to protect ourselves and protect our family. It's a wonderful gift. Does that mean that everybody needs
Yes.
to exercise it? Absolutely not. But don't try and take it away from others that want to make sure that they can protect themselves and their families. And
That's
again,
right.
that's a big part of the war that's going on, the cultural war that's going on in our country.
Yes.
Because, I heard the saying a long time ago every dictator knows you need to do two things to control a populace. First, you have to control the media, and you have to disarm the citizens. And you could make the argument that in large part they already have, the majority of the media. And so, it's
Yes.
people need to understand that it's not business as usual in this
No.
country anymore. You have to wake up, and
Yeah.
you have to get off your butt, and you have to start fighting for what you believe in.
Yeah. I'm not asking, you said it best. Our rights come from God, not government, right? And all of these tyrannical regimes or authoritarian governments, they want government in essence to be God.
Yep.
They don't want people of faith. In fact, faith is always suppressed in those cultures, in those environments. They don't want people to take personal responsibility or ownership for their life. I don't want anyone to come save me or rescue me. That's not someone else's responsibility. It certainly is not the government's responsibility. I have the capacity, I'm not a sitting duck, I have the capacity to be prepared in every direction of my life, right? My physical health, my home, being able to defend my home, having food and water, and being prepared. I'm not looking for someone else to save me, to
Right.
rescue me.
Right.
And that's a mentality, though, that is disappearing quickly in America because of, let's pivot a little bit to schools. We said this at the beginning, that this is an ideological war that's going on right now. And one of the things that I discovered during the COVID challenge was I got a window into what they were teaching my daughter in school. She had these Zoom calls. I was down working out. We were downstairs in the basement, and I started to hear what the teacher was saying. And I
Yep.
started to hear what the other students were saying. And almost all of the rhetoric was against people of faith, for real,
Yep.
against conservative values, and
Yep.
it was the promotion of things that I was just shocked by. And I started to feed my daughter information to make her defense, and then to watch the teacher bully her. I don't like to use the word bullying; it's an overused word, but confront her opinions, and then
Yep.
allow other students to have a feeding frenzy, if you would, was really disturbing. When you look at the schools, it's become increasingly contentious area, right? There's a battle over parents' rights right now like we've never seen before, and a battle for transparency of curriculum. Tell me about what you're seeing in the area of the schools.
It's right on course again with everything else that I see going on. And like, for your viewers and followers out there, if you guys haven't gone and watched the Yuri Bezmenov videos, the ex KGB defector who came to the United States and talks about what the KGB and communism, how they wanted to defeat the West without firing a shot. You see that with the Chinese. You see it with the Russians as well. He goes into chapter and verse, and he will lay out for you, what these folks have been trying to do in academia for a long time. He calls it ideological subversion. He says with his thick Russian accent, "You Americans, you think that the KGB, we're focused on all the James Bond espionage stuff." And he's like, "I've talked to other KGB defectors there were high-ranking officers at my level, and we've all agreed that only about 15% of our budget is spent on the sexy James Bond espionage stuff. The majority of our focus, the majority of our resources went into your classrooms, your culture, your entertainment, etc." And with ideological subversion, and he goes into, like, they have a doctrine that teaches how long each of the four segments of this takes, and they can't even believe how fast it's destroyed the West from within. And so don't take my word from it. Don't take Jimmy's word for it. Go Google Yuri Bezmenov, a KGB defector who talks about what they wanted to do. And he even says, "Look, guys, the reason I defected here, the reason I'm telling you this is because if America falls, I've got nowhere else to go. I'm a dead man." Okay. And he wanted to wake people up. And he was talking about this back in like the 90s. I mean, when you watch these videos, it's not good television quality because it was so long ago. You fast forward 30 years. This is why right now, where I live in Arizona, we have a high school, and they're having a drag show at their high school. Okay, I mean, it's like it's a progression. It's death by 1,000 cuts. It's not an accident, guys. It's very intentional. It's very calculated. It's how many of our enemies wanted to tear down the West, tear down our culture, make us turn on ourselves, make us ungrateful for everything that we have, make us split us up into groups, as Jimmy and I were talking about earlier, so that they can divide and conquer us. And it's working. And the only way for us to turn it around is to wake up. In my opinion, is to turn back to God as a country, to humble ourselves as a country, and to get back to our founding documents, our Constitution, educate our kids on real American history, what our rights are, where they really come from. They're unalienable. They come from God. They don't come from government. and it's gonna be a drop down, drag out fight. And I'm telling you right now, if more of you don't get involved, um, we're
Yeah.
it's this experiment is going to be over if more of you don't get involved.
Yeah.
That's the sad truth. You know, one thing, Jimmy, I'm a
Yeah.
sniper. Okay, one thing that you learn in sniper school is you learn trajectories. Okay, from the minute that bullet
Mm.
leaves the gun, it starts being affected by gravity and it starts to fall. And we study trajectories a lot so that we know where our bullet's going to impact and how much elevation we have to put into our elevation turret on our rifle scope. If you watch trajectories from where this country started to where it's at now, the writing is on the wall, guys. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news. It's not my style. I like people to just be carefree, fancy free, do whatever you want. But I'm telling you right now, I've been watching this trajectory for a long time, and we're gonna lose it if more of you don't get off your butts and get in this fight. And
Yeah.
Jimmy, thank you, brother, for what you're doing,
Yeah.
because even having guys like me on your show and having conversations about medical tyranny on your show, obviously,
Yes.
opens you up to being a target, cancel culture, all of it. But I'm telling you, if more of you guys don't do what Jimmy's doing, more of you guys don't run for office, and more of you guys don't get involved in your school boards, we will lose it. And
Yeah.
your kids and our grandkids and all the next generations will suffer because we were cowards and we were
Yeah.
complacent and we were too
Yes.
scared to do the right thing.
I love that. I think it's time to wake up the warriors, right? It's like this is one of those moments where we're saying you have to engage right now, or there's not going to be a point. There will come a day when you won't be able to engage. It'll be done. And obviously, you've spoken a lot in our conversation just about how important your faith is. Tell us that. Is your faith a part of your driving force in this? And how does your faith help you engage in this without getting discouraged?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Well, it's interesting, as somebody who's running for public office, I don't believe that we ever create a utopia on earth.
Yeah.
Christ even told folks in his day, you will always have the poor with you, and does that mean I don't think we should help the poor? No, it doesn't mean that at all. But because I have a Christ centered life, and because I read my Bible and I do believe it's the Word of God, um, and and I am waiting for Him to come back. I hope and I pray that He comes
Yes.
back during my lifetime. I don't know if that'll happen or not, but my focus isn't here on this earth. My
Yeah.
focus is on eternity and where the people that I love spend eternity. And but on top of that, I also want people, you know, and I agree, and I'm going to throw out the disclaimer, okay, Jimmy. I realize again that not everybody believes what I believe, and I am glad you don't have to believe what I believe. I don't want to force my opinion on you, but this is just what I believe, and I'm not afraid of it. I'm not ashamed of it, so I'm just going to say it. Until Christ returns and creates the only utopia that will ever be on this earth, I think that we owe it, to human beings and humanity to try to live with as much freedom and fairness and love as we possibly can.
Mm.
And one of the tattoos I have on my arm, right here, it says, "Evil triumphs when good men do nothing." And it is so true, Jimmy. And
Yeah.
uh, I feel that what I'm doing right now is a calling, and it's the only reason I'm doing it. It's the only reason my wife agreed to participate in this with me, because I am gone all the time. I've got a
Yeah.
big target on my back. People are constantly lying about me, trying to drag my reputation through the mud. It's not fun. It's not fun at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
But I'm doing it because I love people, and
Yeah.
even the ones that hate me. Like I love you, and I love the fact that we can have, or at least for a long time, we were able to agree to disagree, and I want that to continue, and I want my kids to have that.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And Jimmy, when to me, as a Christian, I know that this life ain't about me, dude. I know that,
Mm.
and it makes it so much easier to just be somebody of service and be like, I know my stuff stinks. I know I'm not perfect. I know there's a lot
Yes.
I don't know, but I'll go serve. And Lord, if this is what you want
Yes.
in my life, I'll go do it. I'll go do it. And if this isn't what you want in my life, Lord, please shut the door. Remove it
Yeah.
from me, because I want to serve you and I want to walk in your favor. And that right there gives me it gives me the courage and the strength and the hope and the peace to do something that I never wanted to do, and to speak with courage like I am right now, because I know it's not about
Mm.
me. And I
Yes.
know in the word it says, they will hate you because they hated me first. And I know that a lot of that hatred, is going to come because I follow someone who was hated as well and put to death
Yes.
because he what because of who he was and what he stood for, and he wasn't
Yeah.
compromising in many ways.
Yes.
So it
Well,
is it
it
is
is.
what it is, brother, and it guides
Yeah.
everything. And I I like to tell people, and I know that this probably doesn't resonate all the time, just because I'm so upset, but I do what I do out of love, not out of hatred.
Yes.
Do I hate what I see going on? Absolutely, but I love freedom, and
Yes.
um, I love people, and that really is what drives me to want to put myself out there and serve, because
Mm.
I want you to have the freedom to say, I hate that guy. I hate everything he
Yeah.
stands for.
Yeah.
Because if you can say that about me, if you can say that about the president of the United States, that means you have freedom. And that's what I
Yes.
love, man. I love it.
Yes.
So
Yes.
anyway, man, I got to get going, but Jimmy, thank you for the opportunity, man.
Dude, hey, it's so good to be in the fight with you. Thank you for the courageous effort that you're underway. I love that this is a calling. We're in it together. Thank you for doing what we're doing. We're going to keep praying for you, brother. Thankful for the time. God bless you, man.
God bless you too, man. Thank you, Jimmy.